guys, and welcome to the Knitting Pastor podcast. Today is Friday, February 2nd, Groundhog Day, and I am your host, Heather. I am a United Methodist pastor serving in two rural churches in central Michigan, and I live near one of those churches in a parsonage, which is a house provided by the churches, with my two kids, Abby and Philip, and my very large dog, a Rhodesian Ridgeback, Flint. For those of you who are checking me out for the first time, let me say welcome. I hope that you like what you see. And if you don't, there are plenty of other knitting podcasts out there, so feel free to move on, and I hope that you do find something that you like and that you enjoy. For all of my returning viewers, welcome back. I appreciate you coming back and all of you taking some time out of your busy schedule to chat with me a little bit about things that I've been knitting and a little bit about what has been going on in my life as a pastor. You can find me on social media, on Instagram and Ravelry as heatheredknitz, and I will put those names down in the down bar here on YouTube so you can check those out. I will apologize that I do not do show notes. I have a very, very full schedule, and doing show notes is quite time consuming. And so in the interest of that and trying to keep myself from going crazy, I have not been posting show notes. But if you do have any questions, about knitting projects, first of all, check out my Ravelry page because I do keep projects updated there pretty well. So go and check that out. Or if you don't like Ravelry or something like that, please feel free to contact me. Leave a comment below, send me a private message on Instagram, and I will happily get back to you and answer your question. And it doesn't have to be about just the knitting projects. It can be really about anything that I talk about. So yeah, so the information of where you can find me will be below. I don't really have any other businessy kind of stuff to talk about, and my kids have a half day of school today, which means that I don't have a ton of time this morning, so I'm gonna just keep plugging on and get through the knitting content. But before we do that, let me talk about what is currently on me. This is the What the Fade shawl by Andrea Mowry. It was a mystery knit along that she did back, I want to say in October, and I participated in it, and I treated myself to some hedgehog fibers, and so this was knit entirely in hedgehog fibers, and I love this. It is so big and warm and squishy, and it feels amazing. I'm not necessarily in love with the colors because I'm not really a pink girl, but I'm dealing with it, and I am okay with the way it turned out. I just think it's really, really pretty, and I like it. It's warm, and it is really cold again today in Michigan. We've had the weather. I hate talking about the weather, but it's been so bizarre. We go from massive amounts of snow up into 50, 60 even degrees, and then all of the snow melts, and then we get another snowstorm, and then it gets warm and all of the snow melts, and it's just getting, it makes one very, very tired of winter. So it has gotten cold again, wind chills in the negative digits, and I believe we are supposed to get some snow this weekend, which can make commuting from church to church for me Sunday morning interesting since I live in a rural area. Snowfall gets a little bit challenging, let me tell you. So anyway, I have digressed. That is what I have been wearing, and so now I'm going to move on to what I am working on in knitting. So what is off my needles, because I do have a finished object for you guys this time, which I'm happy about. I was a little worried that I was not going to have a finished object to show you because life has been very busy. I have had a lot going on in the world of being a pastor, and it has not left me with a whole lot of knitting time. In fact, most of my knitting time has come really waiting for the bus, or we went and saw a couple movies, which I'll talk about later, and I knit then, which is probably why these are my finished objects. These are just a pair of plain vanilla socks, knit in Knit Picks Felici in the steamer trunk colorway. And I used a contrasting color for the heel, but it blends in really nicely, so it's not like this super noticeable contrasting heel. And this was leftover yarn from my Patronus shawl that I knit in the fall. So so this is my finished object. Like I said, just plain vanilla socks. I did 72 stitches because they are for a man, and I did 72 stitches around, and I knit them on US 1.5, 2.5 millimeter Hiya Sharps needles. That is, so 1.5, 2.5 millimeter is my sock needle of choice. I have a fairly tight gauge, and so this gives me a really nice fabric. For me, I really need to loosen up or something, but I have a pretty tight gauge. And so that's why I go a little bit bigger on the needle size than some other people. I'm probably still getting the same fabric because I checked my gauge and I get about 9 stitches to the inch in stockinette. And so that's pretty standard. So that's what these are. And I like, they're kind of a nice neutrally striped color. I did make them match because they're for David, and he is kind of particular about that sort of thing. So I did make them match, and I will give them to him tonight now that I have shown them all to you guys. So moving on, and hoping that I stop making mistakes in this podcast, to what is currently on my needles. And I'm going to show you 2 projects that I'm working on. I have a third that's on my needles, but I haven't really touched it, so I'm not going to show it because that wouldn't be very interesting because it hasn't changed. So if you were following the vlogs that I have been doing on the weeks that I don't podcast, you will see that on the previous vlog that I did, I talked about my Make 9. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Make 9 is kind of a challenge that has been hitting the Instagram creative world lately. Where you put your 9 projects that you want to complete in 2018. These don't have to specifically be knitting. I'm a knitter, and that's why I am choosing knitting. But if you are a crocheter, you could do crochet. If you do cross stitch, you could do cross stitch. It's just a way to kind of set some goals, I guess, on projects that you have wanted to knit. So I chose my Make 9. If you are interested in seeing what those are, I will put a link down below to that vlogcast episode, and you can go check that out. Those are my vlogcasts are short. It's towards the end. You could skip forward, but it's the majority of the episode is talking about my Make 9, so you can check that out. And you will hear about them as I work on them, and I will let you know if this is a Make 9 project or not. Anyway, so I have chosen 9, and I may have been a little over-ambitious with them because I chose 4 sweater projects among my Make 9 because for some reason I am just having this really strong desire to knit sweaters, and I don't have a ton of time, so I don't know why in the world I think I want to knit so many sweaters, but I do. The main goal that I wanted to accomplish with the Make 9 was to, first of all, work through some of the patterns that have been languishing in my Ravelry queue for a while. I keep adding patterns, and it seems like there are ones that have been on there for a while, and I would like to go knit, but I kind of get distracted by like something new that comes out, and I want to knit that. So I'm working on kind of looking at what's already there and going from that. The other goal that I want to achieve with my Make 9 is to use yarn primarily from stash. I did acquire some sweaters quantities worth of yarn right before Christmas, and all of the sweaters that I have chosen to knit are using that yarn. So I do want to try and knit from stash as much as possible. With that being said, I do have some undyed yarn that I may dye a color that might need to go in with a project that needs like a color that I don't really have quite the right one for or anything like that. But my goal going forward is to not buy a whole lot of yarn this year, because I'd like to knit through my stash as much as possible. I do have a hoe this week, which is a half finished object, and this is one of the things that's in my Make 9, but it's a collection. It's not just necessarily one pattern. And that collection, well, there's two collections, and they're the two sock collections that are being released by Mina Phillip, the knitting expat, and it's the Wanderlust Sock. It's the Wanderlust Sock collection and the Cozy Sock collection. And so this is the first one from the Wanderlust, which is designed more for beginner knitters using more simple stitches. And these are the Ravelry socks, and so this is the one that I have gotten finished. You can see it there. I love Mina's patterns because they feel like they fly off the needles. They go so fast, and she only usually does patterning on the front of the sock, not the back. So you have a nice stockinette portion that you can kind of whip through as well. So these are the Ravelry socks. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I apologize if I'm butchering it. The yarn is Knit Picks Hawthorne, and I have absolutely no idea what this colorway is. If you know what that colorway is, please leave a comment or contact me and let me know, because I can't find the tag for it anywhere. I've got absolutely no idea what it is. So that's the first one. I'm not super far on the second one. I've gotten the keel done and like half of a repeat of the pattern. So I'm not super far on that. But I want to get these finished quickly because the February one has come out, obviously, because it's the beginning of February, and it looks really cool and has kind of a cool technique in it, so I want to check that. The needles are Knit Pro Zings. Again, US 1.5, 2.5 millimeter needles, DPNs, which I am kind of loving the DPNs right now, and I'm really loving the Knit Pro Zings. They have a really cool point where it's like, I don't know, the point works really well for me. It's not like a sharp point. It's pointy, but it's like blunted. I don't know if that makes any sense. So it picks up the stitches really well because there's like an edge to it. I don't know, it just works really well for me in the way that I knit, and they're really light and feel really good in my hands, and there's the drag on them is great. So I really like these, and I've really enjoyed knitting with them, and I don't know why I'm really enjoying the DPNs right now. I need to get some DPN cozies because I'm always afraid that I'm gonna lose my other needle, and that would be bad. So these are the socks that I am working on from Mina's collection. I think those will go a lot faster now that I have the vanilla socks done. That is the first project that I have got going on my needles. The other project that I am working on is the Oxbow Cardigan by Andrea Mowry, which is found in the publication A Sense of Place, which is a pattern book that features 4 of her patterns as well as 4 recipes, and it has such like a warm, homey feel to it. I really like it a lot, and I love all of the patterns, and I would really like to knit all of them, but the first one that I had to knit was the cardigan, and so I have made some decent progress on it. Last time on the podcast I showed you I'd finished the sleeves. I'm not going to show those right now because you've seen them, and now I've been working on the body, and so I am this far on it. It's a bulky weight yarn, so it knits up pretty quickly. I am to the point now where I'm going to start shaping for the neck, and then I'm also doing stuff with the sleeves, so I'm kind of needing to pay attention to what I am doing. So this is going to get a little bit more thought. I got to pay a lot more attention now. So I'm a little nervous about that because it's like you're doing 2 things at the same time. And I want to make sure that I'm getting that correct because I don't really want to have to rip this back because I want it to be done. I can't wait to wear it. Let me just kind of give you a close-up of the pattern. You can see what that looks like. It's a really nice texture. I'm really enjoying it. It's a nice repeat pattern. It's easy to keep track of, easy to memorize. So it's really it's been nice knitting. Nice knitting it. Textured, but yet not like overly complicated. The yarn that I am using is Brooklyn Tweed Quarry. This is what it looks like. The colorway is called Flint, and it is a really nice earthy brown. It's not necessarily chocolatey because it's got a little bit more of a gray cast to it, but it's just a really nice earthy brown. The yarn itself is 100% Targhee, and I've never knit with Targhee before, and it is so sheepy but yet not scratchy or itchy. And I am really enjoying knitting with this yarn. It's very rustic, and a big difference for me in yarn that I have knit with, but I really, really like it a lot. And I love the way that it is knitting up. I think it will be very nice to wear once I get it done, and I can't wait. I can't wait to get it done. So this is like the primary project that I'm working on, because I'd like to get this finished and off the needles and onto my body. Needles. I am knitting these on my Knit Picks interchangeable set. This is the Sunstruck wood, US 10.5, no, 11s, US 11s, which is an 8mm needle. So yeah, so this is my Oxbow cardigan. And the progress keeper on here is a cute little, it's a peach from Sucre Miniatures. So that is my other work in progress. So the last little bit of knitting specific content that I have for you is the little section that I call In My Stash, and that is yarn that I have acquired since the last time that I podcast. And as I said, I'm trying not to go too crazy on yarn, but one of the things that I did do at the end of the year was sign up for Molly of A Homespun House's Harry Potter Yarn and Charm Club, because I have fallen in love with her yarn, and I don't have a whole lot of progress keepers that are fun, and so I want to expand that, and I just love her yarn. And so it's kind of been my treat to myself is to indulge in her Harry Potter yarn clubs, because they are wonderful, and Molly is so great. If you have not checked her out, go check her out. She's just the coolest person. So check her out. And so I got this week the January installment of the Harry Potter Yarn and Charm Club. This time she's doing the charms are coming from Simply Serving. And if you are a member of this club and you do not want to see this colorway, I suggest that you turn away now so that you don't see it. I don't want to ruin anything for you. So turn away, skip ahead to the next section. I don't want to ruin it for you. So here's your chance to turn away, not look. All right, for those of you who have received yours or you do want to see, this is the January colorway. And it seems like it's showing up pretty true to color on the camera. It's called the Night Bus, and it's on her merino cashmere base. And it is like all of Molly's stuff. It is just glorious. It is so soft and so beautiful, and I love how it's a very muted, kind of a neutral, and and it smells amazing too, by the way. So I'm really looking forward to using this, especially with the sock stuff. I'm going to be knitting all of that stuff from stash, so this could be a really beautiful pair of socks, or if I get some other yarn that is going to pair well with this with a shawl because it's got cashmere in it, it would be an amazing shawl, or just a really nice luxurious pair of socks. The charm, oh my gosh, I about died when I opened up the charm. Look at the charm. If I can get it to focus on the charm. It is the little dangly dude from the movie. I can't think of his name. I don't think he was in the books. I think it was just a movie thing, but oh my gosh. This is so awesome. And it's so spot on and like accurate. I about died. So this was the perfect charm to go with. The night bus. For sure. So I'm now done showing the yarn club. So if you had turned away, you can turn back now because it is safe. But that is going to be about it for the yarny part of the podcast. The rest of it is going to be a little bit about some stuff that I've been watching. I did actually finish a book. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit, and then a little bit about what has been going on in my life as a pastor, as well as my life just as a regular person. So if you are not interested in that, thank you so much for coming and listening to me talk about what I have been knitting on. If you are interested in that, then stick around because that is coming up next. So now the little section that I call Off the Shelves, and that is where I talk about books that I have read. If you have been watching this podcast for a long time, you know that I used to also review and discuss books that I was reading, as well as what I had been knitting. But since July, when I was appointed as a pastor, I have not been able to read like I used to be able to read, and I felt like I was not going to be giving that part of the show adequate content. So I decided to change the format of the podcast altogether. But today, I do have a book that I finished, and this was an audiobook that I was listening to, and I had listened to the first two books in this series like a year and a half ago, and the third book finally just became available on the audiobook service that I listened to through the library. So I listened to that, and I finished listening to that yesterday, and that was called The Fate of the Tierling by Erica Johansson. The first two books, the first book is called Queen of the Tierling, the second book is called Invasion of the Tierling, and then this is the third book. And so this is kind of the ending of the story, and the main character is a woman called Kelsey Glynn, who is the Queen of the Tierling, and she has been in hiding and comes out of hiding to kind of take over her throne from her uncle who is keeping it for her. And there is another nation that has invaded the Tierling and captured it and taken it over, and she has offered herself up to that queen, which is the Red Queen, and as to buy peace for her country for 3 years. And so it starts with her in that captivity. Now, this is a fantasy kind of dystopian, post-apocalyptic sort of genre all wrapped into one. And they've come to this place, the New World as they call it, after doing the crossing, which was a bunch of people got on boats and left America, it sounds like, and have come to this new place, and they were attempting to set up a utopian society. But of course, human nature takes over, and things do not end up quite so utopian as William Tier, who is the founder, had hoped. There is magic involved in this world, and Kelsey has a bit of it through these sapphires that belonged to the Tier family. And through them, she is able to kind of get glimpses of the past and see how the Tierling was founded and how it all kind of comes together. So she is with the Red Queen, and it's kind of difficult to describe, so I'm not going to try to go into a whole lot of detail. I will say they were interesting to listen to. Not the greatest books in the world, but an interesting listen. The third book got a little bit weird and confusing in ways because it was hard to keep track of where we were and what characters we were following and listening to, so that got a little wonky, but it was well done. I liked it. It entertained me. It's not my favorite. I did give it 3 stars on Goodreads, which is kind of my standard. It was a decent book, but nothing to really write home about. certainly if you are into that sort of genre, it's worth giving it a listen, just because it was, relatively entertaining to listen to. And the ending was interesting, the way that they did the ending, and kind of surprised me a little bit. So that was kind of a nice little twist. I feel like I'm not really giving you a whole lot with this book, but it's hard when it's the third book in a series. I haven't talked about the series at all, and you're not familiar with the series. But that's kind of the gist of it. She's in captivity and trying to get out and get back to her country so that she can save her country from this invading army, as well as some creatures who have existed for quite a while because of what they did at the founding of the Tyrling. I'll just leave it at that. So that's what I finished listening to. I have not started another audiobook yet. If you're curious, the novel that I am currently working on, that is my physical novel, it is another Bernard Cornwell novel, the fourth one in the Saxon series, called A Storm of Swords, I think. No, wait. Sword Song. Storm of Swords is like, I think, a Game of Thrones book. So that's what I am currently reading, and I am being a lot more intentional with trying to read every night before I go to bed, and just kind of clear my mind a little bit and let myself kind of escape a little bit into a world that is not my own. Not that my world is bad, because it's not, but sometimes you just need to kind of relax your brain and let it all go. We have a Flint joining us a little bit. This is my Rhodesian Ridgeback. That is his big head. Yes, hi. He has decided to wake up from his nap and come out and see what his mom is up to. So he's just wandering around, and so he might pop back in. He's done, apparently. So what I have been watching on TV, again, hasn't been a whole lot because things have been really busy, and I've been trying to catch up on podcasts that I have missed, but I have been watching the Netflix series Godless, which stars Michelle Dockery, I think, who played Lady Mary Crawley in Downton Abbey. And it is a kind of a Wild West show set in New Mexico? I think it's New Mexico is where it's set. And she is a widow of a Native American man, and so her son is Native American, and she's kind of on the outskirts of this town where there has been this big mining accident, and so all the men have died, and it's pretty much just the women left running the town, and they don't really like her very much. And this band of outlaws is kind of making its way across the countryside, and one of them has escaped and has found residence in this town, and the others are looking for him. And so it's this kind of funny show. And not funny, because it's not funny by any stretch of the imagination. It's a drama. But it's been really interesting. I'm not really a Western sort of person, but I really like her as a character, so that's been really good. Jeff Daniels plays the like bad guy that's like hunting down this like rogue outlaw. And it's just got some good characters in it altogether, and so I've been enjoying that. I think I have a couple episodes left. I'm not sure. So that's been good. I haven't really watched anything else other than that and podcasts. So the section that I call From the Pulpit, which is about what is going on for me being a pastor, for those of you who are interested in that. And it has been pretty busy the last couple of weeks. For one thing, I had my first funeral last week, and so that took up a fair amount of my time, and I was really focused on doing care for the family and preparing for the funeral. I was kind of nervous because it was my first one, but it all went really well, and the family was pleased, and everything went smoothly with that. This week I've been really busy because I have submitted my seminary application. So that was kind of a big deal, because going to seminary, that whole concept and idea for me has been looming for like 13 years. So the fact that I've finally done it is kind of a big deal. So the seminary application is submitted and in. I have letters of reference that need to get sent in, and then I have to send in my statement of purpose, which I've been working on and is just about done. I just need to make a few editorial kind of changes. And so that is finished. That was a big deal, and I'm kind of scared about how I'm going to be a full-time pastor and go to school at the same time. And raise 2 kids. So it will be interesting to see how that all plays out. And I will bring you all along for this crazy journey that this is becoming, because it's been such an exciting and amazing journey. If you have any questions about any of that, please don't hesitate to ask. I will answer them to the best of my ability. I'm not going to go into any more about all of that right now. I will at a later date, but not today. But if you do have questions, do ask. The last kind of thing going on is that Lent will be starting soon. February 14th is, it's Valentine's Day, but it is also Ash Wednesday, which kicks off the season of Lent, which is the season of preparation right before Easter. And I do have some things going on with that. I'll have a service on Ash Wednesday, and then I'm planning on doing an informal small group where we just kind of get together and chat about what the scriptures were with the sermon and kind of the message of the sermon, and just have a time of being together and discussing all of that throughout the season of Lent leading up into Easter. So, busy times in the church calendar right now. Moving away from that and just into general life stuff, the kids are doing well. We went and saw in the past week The Greatest Showman twice. And if you have not seen that movie, go and get to see it while it's in the theaters. It's probably playing in limited places now because it's been out for quite a while, but it was a really, really good movie and done really well, and the music was so much fun, and my kids, they loved it. It's a great family movie. It's exciting. The music keeps things really interesting. It's just a great story that tells the story of P.T. Barnum, one of the founders of Barnum and Bailey's Circus, which unfortunately, as we may know, has closed in the last year or so, which is kind of sad, especially watching this movie and thinking about, oh my gosh, I went and saw Barnum and Bailey's Circus when I was a kid. And so it was a really, really good movie, and my kids are obsessed with the soundtrack, and so they listen to the soundtrack, and then they have this whole like dance routine that they do along with it with props and all. It's a riot, and they're like doing it every night, and we have to listen to the songs all the time. So I highly, highly recommend going to see that movie now while it is in the theaters. I'm not sure it's going to give you quite the same effect on a TV screen because it's really a grand production. So go and see that. You will not be disappointed, I assure you. Yeah, everything is really, really pretty good. I don't have anything to complain about. Life is good, and I don't get a lot of knitting time, but the rest of what I am doing is so rewarding and fulfilling that's totally okay. So that's all that I have for you this week. Thank you so much for sticking around and checking me out. If you like what you saw, please give me a thumbs up, hit subscribe. Next week will be the vlog style that I have been doing for the off weeks, and I will be back at you in 2 weeks for another sit-down podcast. So for those of you who don't know, the little vlogcasts, as I call them, are little daily vlogs that I compile together into one video that just give you a little bit of a glimpse of my day-to-day life and life here inside the parsonage. So thank you again for checking me out. I hope you all have a great week. I hope you are staying warm, staying safe, and in any snowy or wintry weather. And I will chat with you again in a couple of weeks. Until then, happy knitting. Bye, guys.